Thank you all for joining us. Appreciate you all being here. Our program this afternoon, Architecture in 2020, a panel discussion. Just a couple of quick housekeeping things, and then we will get right to it. Closed captioning is available, so if anyone is interested in that, you can certainly click on the closed caption icon and that is available to you. Our event is being recorded, so if for some reason you do have to step out or step away, the recording of this will be made available on the Syracuse University School of Architecture website following the program, or actually probably tomorrow or within the next couple of days. Most importantly, we do ask that everyone remain on mute. So keep your mute button active. We do ask if you do have questions, please feel free to throw those into the chat feature and we will answer those as we go. And certainly at the end, as long as we have some time, we will open it up to any additional questions that you all might have. Again, we appreciate you taking the time to be here this evening. Obviously, we wish we were seeing you all in person on campus, but certainly this is the next best thing for that. So I will now turn it over to Dean Michael Speaks, who will be facilitating our panel, and we'll give you a little bit of background as to how this came about. Michael?
Okay, Kristen, thank you. Thanks for organizing, and I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. And I want to especially thank our alum and our guests tonight. Just remind everybody, please mute if you're not one of the speakers. Otherwise, we get a lot of background noise. This is Orange Central 2020. This is an Orange Central event, but it's also part of a series of events that we're doing at the school, where we've invited our thesis students for this year, students who graduated last year, and others to have discussions with some of our board members, some of our alum about the job market, about how the industry is being impacted by COVID-19, also by a lot of the social justice movements that have emerged in the wake of the tragic killing of George Floyd and others, especially the rise of really a lot of exciting things around Black Lives Matter. And at our school, we're very involved with a lot of those programs. I'll take the opportunity to announce, I think we have a story that just popped up on SU News tonight. Our local chapter of NOMAS, the National Organization of Minority Architects Students, were the chapter of the year this year, which is super exciting. And yes, indeed. And they actually won the national design competition last year. And I was on the phone with them as the announcements were being made about who was going to go to the final design competition this year. They didn't make it to the finals of the design, and they were very disheartened. And when they won the chapter of the year, I said, "What? You know, you've already won the design thing. That's done. We're done with that. Now it's a chapter of the year." So congratulations to them. They've done an absolutely incredible job. But that we just posted that tonight. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'll be posting that a little later this evening. So I want to introduce our speakers. And to kind of consistent with these discussions that we've been having with others in the profession, I think we hope we'll have a conversation about where the job market is right now. How has COVID and other, let's say, disruptive forces affected the profession, the practice, and also your office? What kinds of things do we imagine we will never do again after COVID passes, and what kind of things will we very likely retain? I know at the school there are a lot of things we've been, let's say, forced to adapt to that have become incredibly powerful and useful tools and technologies and platforms that we will certainly use going forward. There are a variety of other things. So we'll talk about some of those kinds of issues. But first, let me introduce our great panel. We have tonight 5, 6 members of the panel tonight. First, I'll introduce, and I would have, if they all appeared on my screen in order, I could have just said in the top left-hand corner, but you'll have to figure them out by their names. Everybody's names, I think, are attached to their profile on Zoom. But first, let me start by welcoming Yanel de Angel. She received a Master's of Architecture degree from Syracuse University in 1999 after studying at the University of Puerto Rico, where she earned a bachelor's degree in environmental design and architecture. She also has a master's degree from the GSD from Harvard. And she's currently a principal at Perkins and Will in Boston. We have a ton of students at Perkins and Will and at Payette. So we love the Boston metro area. We place so many students over there. We love to visit there. We love our students to visit there. So thank you, Yanel, for being here tonight. Also, Jeff DeGregorio, 1998 alum of Syracuse Architecture, did a B.Arch here. He was very involved with Payette internships in Boston while he was a student here. He currently holds a title of principal, where he leads academic research in projects at MIT, Harvard, and at Cornell, and he is at Payette as well. So we love Payette. We love the offices of all of our alum tonight, especially, but we really love the Boston metro area. So Alex Fernandez is also here with us tonight, 1994 graduate, M.Arch from Syracuse School of Architecture, 24 years of experience working in Puerto Rico, Italy, and the US. He's design director at Gensler, whom we also love, especially because they're in Boston. Thanks for being with us tonight, Alex. Oswaldo Ortega, 2005 graduate, Syracuse University School of Architecture. He did a master's degree after he left here in urban design and architecture at Columbia GSAP. In 2019, he was named a Young Architects Award recipient by the AIA. And he's a project architect in Gensler in Chicago. We love Chicago too, and we love Gensler there. And tonight we're joined by Megan Rand, 2015 graduate, B.Arch, Syracuse Architecture. Earlier this year, she was selected to be a member of the inaugural class of the New Voices Under 30 by the Sports Business Journal. Megan's an architect. She's an associate. She's an associate architect with Populous in Kansas City. I think that is everyone. We are so thrilled to have everybody here tonight. I'm just going to start, and maybe I'll start since Yanel, I started by introducing you, and then we can just kind of go around and see what kind of responses people have. How are you doing? How is the firm doing? Are you working from home in the midst of this crazy world that we live in now with the pandemic? What's happening these days at Perkins and Will?
Thank you for having me. Very exciting to be surrounded by so much orange. I try to wear some orange, or at least fall colors. We're doing well. These are obviously challenging times. All of our offices are open. Many of them really use as a resource because the capacity is reduced. So for example, in the Boston office, only 36 people at a time can be there. But, as many here, I'm sure we are leveraging our digital and technology, digital platforms and our technology to great success. For us, it was a very natural transition. Some teams continue to meet in the office because they feel like that's important, especially when we are getting ready for interviews. In my case, I'm homeschooling, so I tend to stay home, but today I went to the office. So it all depends, but in the individual circumstances, I think we pivoted very quickly, and yes, we're there, surviving, thriving, like you said.
You're muted, Michael.
Yes, I know. I hear that about 100 times a day. Thanks, Jeff. Jeff, since you alerted me to that, I'll ask you the same question.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to be in a very similar situation as Perkins and Will there and many others that, that transition, we were able to make it pretty well and able to keep our projects moving. We're very fortunate that many of them, most of them all kept moving. And so we're very, very fortunate that way. But I think we're coming to that point of figuring out how to continue, but how do you now transcend? How do you now transition the firm? How do you kind of know that this is going to be around for a little while and get back some of that collective mojo and inspiration and innovation? But things are going well. I'm actually in the office today, and we have a real mix on any given day. We have a bit larger capacity than Yanel talked about, and we can get up to around 50, 60 in our office out of about 170. And on any given day, there's certain teams that are here lots. Others are kind of moving in and out depending on a meeting, change of pace, leveraging maybe better internet speeds and whatnot. It's good to just be around our colleagues and live off that energy a little bit when we can and recharge and then take it on the next week.
Fantastic. Thank you and welcome. Oz, how are you all doing up in Chicago?
So we're also doing well. We've adjusted and pivoted like everyone else. But we are still at home, and I think we've actually became a bit more efficient in some ways. And I think it's actually personally for me, I enjoy it because I have a 1-year-old in the house, so it's just more time with him. And then it allows me more sort of like more actual flexibility. But in general, though, we are all still home, and I think we'll probably be home for a while because it is going really well.
Great to hear. Megan.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Things out here in Kansas City are going well. We are on a shift system, so some of us are in the office, depending on the day of the week that we're assigned to. I'm actually in the office today. Office culture is a big thing for us here at Populous, and one of the ways we've tried to continue that is meeting across all of our America's offices all together bi-weekly. So that's really helped us kind of connect across all of our offices. But things are going well, and we're excited to, continue transitioning back or into this new normal. But otherwise, things are great.
Great to have you here tonight. Alex, how are you? How are things?
We're super busy in terms of work. We're very busy with work lately. Our office is just, we cannot stop. It's been also very challenging in terms of the level of communication, whereas before you could say a few words in person or sketch a few things and get across the message in a very quick manner. Now, you need to be on a phone for half an hour, and things that took 5 minutes all of a sudden take 15, 20 minutes. So it's put a challenge in terms of the design aspect of things and how you process through ideas. But all in all, I think people, we're ready. We're just getting started. I think this is going to be for a while. I think it's going to be more than a year easily. And if we hear Dr. Fauci, it's probably going to be a couple of years until we see vaccines. So who knows where we'll be next year. So that's where we are.
Wow, great to hear. So maybe I'll just maybe ask a couple of questions about where do you see the you know, the industry right now. After 2008, there were, you know, there was I can't recall how many articles we saw, like in New York Times, Washington Post, many arguing, study anything but don't study architecture, because the because the industry is going to collapse and there's going to be no buildings. And of course, that didn't turn out to be the case. We kind of lost a generation, though, I think, or maybe not fully, but we lost some. There were a number of people who actually, it turns out, didn't decide to study, and some, you know, dropped out. I'm wondering, what do you all see just on the immediate and middle and long term, anybody, horizon for the profession? I want to ask some job kind of related questions later, just for our students, and particularly those who are looking right now, and maybe get some advice from you. But how do you, looking out on the horizon, what do you see? Do you see gloom and despair? Do you see opportunity? Alex, you said you guys are busier than ever. What do you, I don't know. What do you?
So what happened in our office about 2 or 3 years ago? We started investing a lot on lab science, you know, science buildings, and that's been now the savior in a way in this market, because nobody's building regular office buildings. Some of our other markets, like mixed use, those things have been put on hold for the most part. Those are projects that typically take many more years. So lab has been kind of the booming market for us, and we're right now, because we can leverage the whole platform of the firm. Our office is keeping busy about 50 persons from other offices from Costa Rica, San Diego, etc. So we've been able to kind of leverage the whole firm to help us. Where the things are going to go, I wish I had my crystal ball here, but I don't see it. I guess clients are even asking. I would say our clients are even asking, where's this going to go? And not that they're scared, but you sort of sense like they don't even have a clue. So I think we're all in the same boat at this moment. I don't know what my colleagues think.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think, you know, I remember very vividly the recession in 2008. And this recession is different, and it's because it's also, you know, a public health situation that is very serious and compounded by the wave that we saw coming, which is climate change. But I will say that there are things that we kind of predict, and we know that these recessions come in waves. So, for example, the importance of the health of your backlog, which, you know, it's something that you take for granted when things are healthy and everything is moving and you're busy and you're just grinding it. But that has been really important, not only in this recession, but in past recession. And that's really what keeps you going while you can at least figure out what to do and how, like Jeff said, how to transcend, how to reinvent yourself. I think there is, as with other recessions, heightened emphasis on client engagement. Diversifying the portfolio is very important as a resilient strategy. A more nimble approach to our business, I think is key. And you know, those who have been able to pivot quickly because we had the technology has been important. I will say that even though many are risk adverse, this is also an opportunity to take that pause, look inside and say, okay, what's my differentiator? What's really what makes us unique? Because the competition just gets fierce out there when you're looking for work. And you cannot be all things for everyone, but you can definitely identify what is the value proposition that you're bringing. And while many are risk adverse, you might need to be risk brave to be able to differentiate yourself and take that, you know, make that difference. But, you know, something that we see in every recession is the emphasis in renovation rather than new construction. And what I think is a wonderful thing is we then take the time to conceptualize and plan. So maybe you don't get an RFP that is for new construction, but you get an RFP that is for a feasibility study, and everyone can take a respite and really think critically of how we are impacting our environment, which I think, is also an important thing to do, as we are all, going so busy all the time and don't have time to take time to think more critically.
Janelle, maybe I want to ask you this, and just to follow up, and then maybe ask Jeff if he would comment on this as well. Do you think firms are taking, and individuals are taking, a bit of a pause and being a bit more reflective and considering what are the opportunities, where are the value-added propositions, and which sectors do we focus on? I mean, one assumes that, but do you think I mean, I assume since you mentioned this, your firm is doing that, but do you think firms in general are doing that?
I mean, I think it's the only way to really survive and stay relevant and transcend. I mean, we're right now, we are in an endurance race. This is going to be a lasting thing, and we can think about what's happening this year and really make something very special out of it. For example, our firm is completely focused on justice, equity, inclusion, diversity. We call it JEDI. And, that is not something that impacts us only as, as a company, but it impacts our clients. It impacts them, our networks, how we look for work, how we make teams, how we make team compositions that are really mirroring the diversity of our clients and our communities. And I think this is the time that really this year was shaking us to take a pause and reconsider things that are extremely important and that we were so busy we kind of left to the side.
Yeah, do you want to follow on that?
Sure. I think, like Alex and similarly with Janelle, that, our firm, if you know anything about Payette, has a focus on science, healthcare, high technology types of buildings. So we're very, at a certain level, fortunate in this type of environment that those types of projects are at one level at the heart of the challenges that we face. And not only within the pandemic, but if you think about the sort of global situation and climate and other challenges that we face. The other piece is that even within the pandemic, physical space at one level is at the heart of this. Some of our greatest challenges come from us being within spaces next to each other, with each other, right? And so, I always remember that architects are problem solvers. And so our architecture has to solve this problem and kind of breed that excellence of pulling sort of the industry and science and the profession to new places that address what is, likely not going to be a one and done situation with a pandemic like this. And how do we leverage this challenge to change architecture, likely for the better? And so at one level, I think I'm very grateful to be in the science and technology. Feel like you're contributing to that type of goal. But also, grateful in that the world still needs research labs right now. And so we're able to sort of continue to focus on that. And probably not a time that we would, in a funny way, diversify. You sort of double down, you know where your strength is, and you need to go to excellence within that market.
Oz,
Sure. Yeah.
Take it where you want to.
So and I apologize because my son's in the room and he's being changed, so you might hear some things. But I'll say this. I think what we've seen here locally is a few things. We see sort of one on a high level and exacerbation of something that a trend that was already happening, right? So that there were already investments sort of in. So we're again in like Chicago. So there was already sort of this pattern of trying to invest more on the south and west side of Chicago. That's my son. He's enjoying his changing. And then so now we see all that exacerbated and going a lot faster. So if you're already in that space and you're already doing that work, then this helps you, right? The other thing that we're seeing, especially sort of with some of our of our workplace, not all, but a lot of our actual retail clients, we're seeing that that because things are slow, this is an opportunity to actually get a project done really, really fast without any major kind of like, interruptions or disruptions. So there was this initial kind of, hey, once we know how to work with this thing, right? Once we know how to wear masks and have all these proper kind of like procedures in place, let's get this thing built before we reopen. So we reopen back larger, better, exciting, etc. Right? So when that wave comes back up, we can ride it up even higher. So we have those clients as well, but that speaks to this idea of risk, right? And some clients are going to be risk adverse, and some clients are going to be, hey, this is an opportunity, and so that affects our market as well, right? So it's been really interesting. It's been a fun ride, I guess, in some respects, but in general, everyone is essentially reflecting one way or another and making a serious adjustment or a pivot. That's just 2020. Right?
Yeah, certainly. Certainly we have done. I mean, we started some of this at the school last year and have continued that. And I think one of the things we see is that a lot of the disruptive activities that have been going on this last year, many of which are terrible, many of which are quite good and necessary, have accelerated many things that were happening already. And I think you're absolutely right about that. I think it's a matter of having kind of been positioned to deal with that and to move forward. And those who were, I think, are prospering, and those who weren't, I think, are trying to figure it out right now. I'm going to come back to Jedi in a minute, because I know I've talked with Rosa Shang about that, and I'm not sure, Janelle, if she's involved with you at all with that, but I'm going to ask a general question about that in a minute with everybody else. But Megan, I want to know what's happening in the world of sports facilities. How are you all impacted differently, similarly? Is it a different? I mean, it's a very specific typology, very specific kind of clientele, very specific kind of financing, funding. What's that world like right now?
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of other people's worlds, it's been pretty unique and just trying to figure everything out. And I think what's different about this recession is having the pandemic aspect. That's something none of us have ever really dealt with before. So clients and our firm are all going through this together. So I think it's been a unique opportunity to kind of figure this out alongside our clients and strengthen a lot of those relationships. And working really, Populous's slogan is drawing people together, which means all of our facilities involve large amounts of people, which obviously is not conducive to this pandemic environment. So, it's really allowed us to take a step back and not only brainstorm about how to kind of get through this with our clients and how to reopen their facilities safely, but also kind of plan for the future and how we can safeguard against this type of thing, even when things eventually do return to normal. We have developed a collegiate think tank throughout this pandemic, working with universities across the country and talking about reopening plans and different strategies. And it's really been an amazing experience, I think, for our firm to brainstorm all together with all different clients, all in the same room. And I think that's something really valuable that may not have happened without this sort of situation. So I think things like that have been really valuable. But again, all of us going through this together, I think, is strengthen relationships, and also all of us being able to slow down a little bit. As you know, at the height of sports seasons, or as you can imagine, it can be difficult to find the time with, team ownership or facility managers to actually work through designs and get feedback on things, just due to their schedules during those seasons. But with the whole world slowing down, it really allowed us a lot more time to really dive deeper into those designs and get more feedback on a deeper level. So I think that has been a plus, looking at the bright side for this whole situation.
Again, I can't let it pass without asking you a less serious, but maybe a serious, both a professional and personal question. You've seen our new facility here. The new dome has been unveiled, and there's actually been a couple of games in there already. What is your personal and professional view of our new facility?
Oh, it's definitely iconic. I actually, last time I was up there, Populous did the Barn Center at the Arch. So a lot of that work was kind of going on at the same time. And it's very different, you know, flying into Syracuse and seeing that, or seeing it from the highway, the new dome. But there's been a lot of great feedback about the design. You know, watching that first game there, it was a shame that you know, fans weren't allowed in there to experience that first game, but it seems like overall people are really excited about the project and happy to be there.
Yeah, well, and kudos on the Barn Center. It's an absolutely fabulous facility. I mean,
thank you.
Everybody here, everybody on campus absolutely loves it. You know, there are a lot of things happening on campus. The NVRC, the National Veterans Resource Center, was completed last April. We didn't even actually have a proper opening for that. The Shine Center is under construction and will be done, we think, sometime in the first part of the year. There's a lot of activity, a lot of things happening on campus. I will tell you, despite the fact that there don't appear to be a lot of people on campus, when you go out on the Einhorn Family Walk now, especially in the last month when we had so many beautiful days in October, it's a glorious thing to go out there and see people walking up and down. It's really quite nice. I'm going to ask you, I'd like to ask you all something, a question related to something that Yanel mentioned, which is justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, JEDI, J-E-D-I. I started having a discussion about this maybe, I don't know, 5-6 months ago with Rosa Sheng, whom some of you will know is a graduate of our school. She actually was a convocation speaker for us here maybe 2 years ago. And I know this is, and I'm not sure if this is proprietary to her, the acronym, but obviously the agenda and the importance of this can't be overstated now. It's an extremely important initiative. And I wonder, maybe Yanel, if you want to say something more about that, and I would love to know what other firms are doing around this issue and how significant and how important it is, you think, to the adjustments that we all are going to have to make, not only to, let's say, the cultural aspect of the practice and the discipline of architecture, but to hiring, to the job marketplace, to the way projects get selected and sought. And I don't know, Yanel, do you want to say a little bit more about, because I'm not sure everybody knows or is familiar with JEDI. It is a super exciting initiative.
I'm part of the diversity council in the firm, and that is led by Gabrielle Bullock out of our LA office, though she's really our global diversity leader. And I will say, and I'm so glad that you brought Rosa Schenk to the picture, because while we are talking here from the perspective of each of our offices, the reality is we as an industry have these conversations. And I believe JEDI came out of discussions, many roundtables that many firms were having. So I don't think it's proprietary to anyone. I think we own it as a community of designers, which is wonderful. Now, speaking particularly about the efforts that Perkins and Will has been doing, which were ongoing before this year, there are two sides of this. There is internal. So now we have this lens that we cannot take off, right? Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And this is the lens that we use for hiring, for recruitment, for retention of our talent, for developing a clear pipeline for those that are still even in high school. It's really a commitment. You really need to look at the entire life cycle. And speaking as a female architect, to know that there are others that have been opening that path for women. I mean, right now, what I hear around is that this is not a recession, it's a she session. And you probably know that in 2008, we lost a significant amount of mid-level woman architects, interior designers. We're trying really hard to make an effort that this recession is different and that they feel supported. And if you're a female and you're struggling with this, reach out to other females that can be role models. People are very generous at this particular time. You can certainly reach out to me. For me, this is important and it's personal. Now, as you said, it also is informing our go, no go process. So do we really want to take on this job? Is this client really mirroring our values? Is this where we want to put our emphasis? Furthermore, I will say that we are undergoing a very different way of thinking about partnerships, where we want to identify proactively the women and minority businesses in our industry that could be important partners. And we don't call it mentorship, we call it knowledge transfer. How can we bring them in? And I'm not saying as the token minority, but with a substantial scope so that they are really brought in as another partner at the table. And that through that engagement and experience, they earn their own portfolio experience to be able to position themselves in the future. Really trying to grow the forest, not trying to think only about a singular practice. So I will say that those two, the internal focus, the external focus, and really doing this in partnership with so many wonderful clients that we are privileged to work with and share our values.
Thank you, and sorry for being muted. Thanks so much. That's incredibly, I think, helpful and informative. Jeff, how important are these issues, do you think, to the profession in general, and to your firm, and yeah, what's happening? What are we doing? What are we doing about it?
No, this is huge, and I would echo everything that's been said. And the importance to the profession is something that actually, over the past 9 months, I've seen a step function. And a step function of not only, I think there's been many months and years of firms looking inwardly about how they can improve this particular situation, but now I'm seeing it from clients. It's part of our RFPs. We have to be accountable. We have to be able to address this. And that's such a kind of important step, right? To have that support and accountability to talk about these issues and have it be a factor in how we win our work. I will also say that I think that one of the positive things that I've seen over the past 9 months in this working from home environment, Microsoft Teams, Zoom meetings, is actually the conversations around this topic, particularly within our firm. And I think this format actually does really well for that type of conversation. It's a very sort of democratic, equitable type of format that I think fosters, much in the way we're having this conversation today, a really easy way for people to kind of have a safe place. It feels private. It feels like everyone's on an equal platform to be able to share their thoughts and concerns. And there's been a number of these conversations, whether it be on social justice, whether it be part of our equity, design, and inclusion topic, sort of luncheons that we've been having over this. And it's actually been really nice, a nice break from the work to have these moments, to have these conversations about things that are really troubling to a lot of us.
Thanks, Jeff. Oz.
Hey, so yeah, as you may know, I've been involved sort of in this space since I was in Syracuse, right? So I founded SMAD, and then I was in NOMA since then. I was past, I'm a president. So I Gensler, though, the last 7 years, though, prior to all this happening, I did find a lot of support and just like advocacy in doing the work. And it was great, right? It was all good. But then again, when this year happened, everything just went on roids, right? So everything just got exacerbated. A lot of doors just all of a sudden flew open, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So to echo a lot of the initiatives that Perkins and Will are doing, we're doing that as well. With like recruitment, et cetera. In addition, we're doing a few other things. We're issuing sort of research grants and opportunities for folks in our firm to kind of dive into each of these individual topics some more. I'm a recent recipient of that, so really happy about that. And then on top of that, it's so we did recruitment. There's so many active initiatives, but I think what's important is that we're actively pursuing projects in some of these places of color, and then as partners, right? So it's I think in the past, if it fell in our lap, then we would take it. But I think now we're actively going out there and pursuing these projects, right? Which I think is fantastic. And if that means we have to lower our fee, then it is what it is, right? So, but I think it's an exciting time for those of us who are really passionate about doing this work, because it seems as though all the doors have just flung open, in mid-July, which is just like, all right, so now we all have to walk through them, right? So, and let's just see what that looks like.
Does it feel to you like people are walking through them? Does it feel like the profession is starting to look at the door and walk into it and walk through it, or not? Just curious, just from where you sit now. Yeah.
I say yes. So there's a few things. There's a lot of folks who've been, again, like doing this work, a lot of our peers who are really passionate about this topic. And they're not walking fast enough, right? So there's, I think everyone is walking through it. Some folks are actually like stumbling, but they're walking, right, which is great. So there's a little bit of that, but I do feel as though that there's, as Janelle said it earlier, like once it's seen, it can't be unseen. It's like there's a wormhole that just like connected to two different like realities, and now you're like, oh, this is a real thing. And then and it affects a lot, how we work, our how we practice, etc. So it's sort of, it can't be undone. So you just can't skate over it. So you have to deal with it one way or another. And I think that in itself is powerful. And then on top of that, if we're doing that and our clients are echoing that, then there really is no excuse, right? So there's like, which is exciting, right? So it leads for, it creates a platform for new ideas, and just a new way of looking at spaces, which is, for anyone who's a designer, that's just a great time, right? So it's been an exciting year because of that. I think it's been the flip side to 2020.
Yes, Alex. Thanks, Oz. Alex.
I echo
what's
a lot
happening at
of,
Gensler?
Yeah, well, I think this year and all the things that have happened, it's also given us a chance to be introspective and find the purpose and think about what we do and the why, what we do, the things that we do. And to expand on Jedi, I think it's also about the value proposition on projects. Projects are not only about making profits on fees and so on. They're projects that will not get you the fees that you want, but from replenishing the heart of the employees and the people who find purpose and believe in this thing. There are projects that we've done pro bono. We did a school for girls in Afghanistan recently, and that was completely free work, but we did it with the interns and a few other colleagues, and it's one of those projects that people keep talking about because it's one that replenishes the heart and goes to the soul. So I think it's a moment of finding what are the things that you believe in and you want to strive for and push for that. Yeah.
Alex, do you think those kind of projects are, you said they're replenishing. Do you think they, one can't really put metrics on these kinds of things, but they do, in fact, create a kind of a cultural investment in your office, right? I mean,
well, and they also position you. I think if you look at the sad side of marketing, there's always the marketers who want to like spin things around. So yeah, they can spin things and get value out of that, but really, I think it goes back to being true to the core. What do you believe in? Why are you in this profession? We're obviously not here to make a buck. We chose the wrong one. But if we're about building things and making the world better through our actions, and then I think these kinds of projects go a long mile. And that, you're right, they're not metric based. They're not, but I think of all this horrible things that have happened in the last year and before, because they've been going on for many years. It's an awakening for us to really think about what's really important in our lives. What are we doing here? What are we trying to leave behind when we're gone? So I think there's a lot of unanswered questions, at least on my mind, and why I do things that I do. So I don't know, just finding purpose. I think it's something that's been put on the forefront.
Thanks. Really, really wonderful to hear that. Megan, what's happening? How is Populous? How are these issues being discussed, if they are, and what are the implications at a firm like yours?
Yeah, they're definitely being discussed, and I think, kind of to echo Jeff's comments, I think this digital platform has actually been very advantageous for these conversations, and I think a lot of people feel a lot more comfortable sharing their comments in a digital way, either through Zoom, or we actually have an internal social network, if you will, and we've created a new group in that's fostered a lot of really wonderful discussion. People talking about their experiences in and out of the industry, people sharing resources to educate themselves and things of that nature. And I think that, the digital aspect has been really valuable to that, especially when starting what might be perceived as a difficult conversation can be more successful in a digital platform rather than, everyone silently in the same room and no one wanting to break the silence. So I think that, that's been really great to really push this conversation along. We've also looked at, that's kind of firm wide, and as far as recruiting goes, of course, we have always placed a big emphasis on, diversity of applications in the schools that we engage with. But, it was also mentioned previously, kind of the life cycle of this industry. And so we've also been talking a lot about initiatives to get into high schools and even middle schools to, expose a lot of younger folks to this profession and all the different things that you can do after going to architecture school. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to work in a firm and get licensed. There's so many careers that can come out of getting an architecture degree. So I think there's been an increased focus on that life cycle part of the industry. And then in Kansas City, I guess, specifically, we've looked at doing a lot of community engagement, and a lot of folks in our firm have been participating with a lot of outdoor projects that are going on in neighboring communities. And I think that, the whole nature of the pandemic and everything slowing down a little bit has really allowed a lot of people to have more time to invest locally in our communities. So I think that's really been great as well.
So I've asked you all. I'll mention that at our school, this has also been an incredibly transformative year. There were many things that were underway already, but we have, I think, accelerated a lot of the things that we have been doing. We've had a diversity, equity, and inclusion student council now for, I think, going on 3 years. Oz mentioned the SMAD organization and the NOMAS. SMAD kind of disappeared here a little bit, and then we had an incredible team who came in and reinvigorated our NOMAS chapter 3 years ago, and that chapter has just been doing all kinds of incredible things. As I said, last year they won the design competition. This year they won Firm of the Year. we're doing, we have made a lot of commitments. Some of those you'll be able to see on a new DEI website. We will be putting up on the school website, or let's say on a school URL on our own school website. You'll see about 10 of those kind of commitments, which include things like increasing substantially the profile of visiting critics, critics who come to reviews. We are committed. We've committed, and in fact, are in the process now of adding BIPOC members to our board of advisors. That's literally happening as we speak. So you'll see some evidence of that very shortly. Lecture series. We also are looking to hire at the dean's level a position to oversee recruiting and to implement a lot of the kind of the things that JEDI stands for and is engaged with. So in any case, many schools are involved in this. We certainly are deeply involved in this and are committed. Also, high school recruiting, our high school summer programs, a lot of new scholarships and scholarship activities around this we're involved with right now. So as a school, we are committed short, middle, and long term to this effort, and you'll be seeing more of that. I want to pick up on a point I think that Megan made, which is a point I always love, and that's a point that students trained as architects, especially who have professional degrees, have such an incredible range and variety of skills and talents. So many of our students now, as probably was always the case, but I think even more so now, want to do everything, right? They want to design office towers. They want to run nonprofits. They want to develop a collection in collaboration with Telfar Global. They want to have they want to make films. They want to do like 100 different things. So we know our students are incredibly talented and they can do many, many kinds of things. I wonder, this is for anybody, for what is the short, middle, and long-term job market look like for our students? We know they always do well. As I said, we love Boston Metro, we love Chicago, we love Kansas City too. But what does hiring look like for you all in the near future? What's the job market look like? Because I know a lot of firms are still sitting tight, looking. We had a very interesting opportunity this summer at our New York City program. One feature of which is the internship program we did there, or we do there. And of course, when everything went online, a lot of the offices said, well, we can't do that. And we said, well, what about doing online internships? And as it turns out, we convinced about 25 firms to do those. So everybody's adapting, really developing new typologies of creating pipelines, hiring students, internships. What does it look like for you all right now? And is there a reason for our recent graduates, that is to say from last year, many of whom are still looking, are there reasons for them to be hopeful? And yeah, what does the short, middle, long term look like to you in the job market?
Maybe I could just quickly weigh in.
Please,
a little bit in that. I've been really sort of optimistic based on, I think, our past so far through this, and that we did have interns. We were able to hire people. And so I feel very grateful for the opportunity to do that and continue. You have to continue to bring new people in, or else you will get those sort of lost generations, right? You have to continue to kind of nurture that and bring people through. It's tough to know what the next year will bring, but I've been pleasantly surprised by how the RFPs continue to come in, and the work is there. But I think for many of us, you know, the backlog is really important, as you know, noted in 2021's the litmus test, right? And our ability to get back on track as a population is really critical. On the other positive side, I think you spoke to a lot of it. One, the diversity of what people can do is always astonishing coming out of architectural school. Thank God I got hired when I did 20 some odd years ago, and I don't have to enter this market now because the talents of these folks are just awesome, right? The other piece that I think is kind of liberating is that, you know, if I look at my, you know, some of my teams right now, I've got a person that needed to move back home to Israel that's still working with me. There was an intern that was down at Virginia Tech. There is somebody that, you know, is over in Maine. There's people that are here. And so I think it actually has liberated people in a sense that when I went into the market, I knew I wanted to do big projects. And so I went to Boston, I went to New York, I looked at Washington, but I'm not sure that matters as much anymore. I could live in wherever and work in a firm in Boston and LA and San Francisco. You know, I don't know if that boundary is important to firms. And it'll be interesting to see if that changes, right? I think we would like to hold on to the idea that they all have to be within like 20 miles of us here, but I don't know. When you see talent, you see talent. And if they want to, you know, live here, it'd be interesting to see how that changes and how this may have enabled a much more broad reach and gets to some of the goals we were just talking about in the way you look at the diversity of your firm and where they're from and all of those things, right? It could be actually quite liberating.
Sorry, I muted myself. I feel better already, Jeff. Does the other people have comments on the job market, and what should our students be doing right now? Obviously, they should be networking. They should be on LinkedIn. They should be connecting to you. They should, and we're trying to connect them with alum. Jeff Zenda the other night said something that we all know and believe and know to be true, but I don't think we exercise that muscle enough. He said Syracuse Architecture has one of the most powerful, incredible networks of graduates of any school, any institution in the world, and we don't exercise the muscle enough. We're gonna try to do more of that. But what advice would you all have, and what anybody, and what does the horizon look like from other firms' perspectives?
If I may jump in, I think one recommendation I would do if you're still in school is to keep building that tool belt of knowledge and tools that you can bring to the job, so that when the economy kicks in and things start to kind of fall on track, which they will, your position as a candidate with all the tools and you're nimble and you can move in different ways. So I think that would be a recommendation. Because we've seen our firm has been around for 55 plus years, and every time we come out of a recession, the firm comes out stronger and just bolts up vertically within a year or 2 years time. So hiring is going to happen, and we're already keeping resumes and keeping names on file and keeping tab of those good people. We're always looking for talent. So the networking, I think, is crucial right now. You know, if you need to sharpen portfolio, the quality of the portfolio, this is the time, and just get your tool belt super ready, because it's going to happen.
I'm feeling even better now. So I think I just need to keep asking more of these kind of questions, because by the end of it, we'll all feel fantastic. I mean, well, I do think no, I obviously
you got to be hopeful.
We have to be hopeful, and I think there is good reason to be. I don't know, Yanel, do you, I see you're unmuted, so I take that to be an invitation to ask you something.
Yes.
What do you think? Yeah, job market. Yeah, what do you think? What does it look like?
I was hired at Perkins and Will in November 2008 when no one was hiring, and I consider myself very lucky. It happens. It can happen to you. I think everything that Alex said, I second. This is not your gap year. This is your year. And I will say, obsess about your portfolio. I mean, we are seeing candidates that are, like Alex is saying, just we keep the list running because we are looking for clarity, simplicity, storytelling, you know, something that will grab our attention and will wow. Don't idle. If you find yourself without a job right now, volunteer on something that has a social purpose. Enter a competition. Do something that you can say, listen, I was for 2 months without a job, but I did this. Wow. I think that's very important. You already mentioned it, Michael, the networks. Use your network. I think, people, like I said before, in difficult times and just in general, people want to help. Everyone wants to help. Reach out to your networks, make connections. Cold calls are awkward, but okay. Again, what is there to lose? And I think don't miss this as an opportunity to rethink with clarity, what are you bringing to the table? And I don't think it will be unnoticed. And we are doing internships. We did one for the summer, we're doing one in the spring, and it will be virtual as well. And yeah, these two shall pass.
Fantastic. Others, Oz, any comments about what does it look like from the Windy City?
I mean, it's again, I think I have an optimistic future. I see things really jumping back up March to like June of next year. So I think it is a bit of an odd year. But again, it's an opportunity, right? And it's sort of, what are you going to do with this opportunity if you have it? And it's a rare opportunity because once you get started, you won't have a break. So until you retire.
True.
So which is a good like 40-year stint. So I suggest you take this opportunity to do what everyone else is doing in 2020 and reflecting, learning a new skill and growing, or trying to be active and giving back, right? So I think whatever's going to essentially make you the best you, so when you can start, you can essentially like knock it off the park, right? So I think, yeah, I don't see this thing. I think the industry in general has, if not already adjusted, they made a lot of adjustments. And those who are still like lagging behind are going to make those adjustments by like mid next year. So I think it'll be fine.
So prepare and be ready for the opportunity because it's coming, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Megan, you're, I think, among the more recent graduates. What would you tell a thesis student this year, or somebody who graduated last year? Any specific advice? Any tips? Any pointers?
I think
yeah. What do you tell them?
Yeah, I think a lot of what was said about kind of diversifying your skills, and even talking to some students this morning who were concerned that they don't have a lot of direct architecture firm experience on their resumes, and I think that's naturally going to be a concern for a lot of students who weren't able to get internships this summer or this winter. And I think that it's important to just show that you're a well-rounded person. That's something that specifically on our new hire committee, we look at very seriously. How are you involved in your community? How do you have different interests outside of architecture? What else are you involved in? So I think this is a great time to kind of dive into a lot of those hobbies that you might not have had time to do during a typical thesis year, if things are a little slower right now. And so I think that, it's okay to focus on those things outside of architecture, because those types of skills can set you apart from other students. Like I recently talked to a student who, fundraised for a cause they were really passionate about. And I think that was really powerful. And the way they spoke about that really stuck in my mind and helped set them apart from other people. So I'd say, this is a time to really explore some of those other interests. As well as, we mentioned this alumni network, and there's been a lot of folks, Syracuse students and otherwise, who have reached out to members of our firm. Just, I think it's been nice that a lot of those students are not leading with, are you hiring? They're leading with, you know, I'd love to talk about how you're responding to this pandemic. I'd love to talk about, you know, how you see the industry moving, or tell me more about, you know, this discipline. And I think that those conversations have been really valuable, and even, you know, created those connections with different members of our firm, so that as we go into this next hiring season, shortly here, I think that those names will stick out. And when those students do reach back out, you know, we'll remember the conversations we had during this period, which will really help them kind of rise to the top of the group.
You know, Michael, if I might just add in, if you don't, one last thing that I think is worth saying, in that I don't, even when this pandemic's over, this format isn't going anywhere. And so, you know, talked about it of storytellers, but leverage the technology, right? So if somebody would come across our desk that just really knew how to tell a story over a camera and had leveraged the technology to explain their projects and the stories and all the ways that you know, sort of digital realms and ways to talk about their portfolios, that would be amazing. So I think you got to grasp the technology, use it. And it's just so much different than the portfolios of the books, you know, that were just a year ago, right? And how we actually talk about ourselves and being comfortable talking. I'm no example, but you know, if they could be really good about that, that's a talent that they'll use for years, right? And that's hireable.
It's, you know, what's funny is we see a lot of this happening right now. I think it's a great point. We see a lot of this happening right here in our first year studios, where students are really having to learn how to make three-dimensional objects, but to show them in the two-dimensional reality of the screen and describe them and present them. That's a skill you would never kind of consider, you know, because the critic comes around and you just hand it to them normally. But because they're in the next room, or they're on, you know, they're somewhere else, having to portray that three-dimensional object in 2 dimensions and talk about it is a new skill. It's just it's a kind of a new skill that we would never have considered a skill last year. I think you're absolutely right about that. We're getting close to our end time, and maybe I just would ask if any of you have any final observations, anything to say that has not been said or asked. If not, I have one more question. I'll be happy to ask, but I don't know. Any closing comments? Anything to say to our current students, future students? We're in the middle of recruiting season right now. We're talking to a lot of students. We're all over the place, but we're staying right here in Syracuse because we're doing a lot of our recruiting right now, as you can imagine, by Zoom. There are a lot of new opportunities this year with all kinds of new scholarships. You know, Oz, I know you have been, and I believe in the past you've advised some of the ACE students that we have here at Syracuse. This year, we're told we're going to get as many as 10 ACE funded scholarships at the university, which is a great new scholarship opportunity. But I don't know, are there anything you all want to close with? Any closing comments? And let me just say, we will definitely be back in touch and would love to have you join us for some of our other discussions. But yeah, any closing comments?
Maybe I'll just say one thing, not to leave you hanging. How about that?
Please do, please do. I appreciate that.
And then others can save me. How about that? So
that's it.
It's a quid pro quo here. So the one thing I might say is that, you know, clearly we're trained as creative people. And I think while particularly for your students, they need to be able to leverage that creativity to the maximum extent possible while they're in school, because they will never get that time back. I think they also have to leverage that creativity, obviously, to go get a job and to use all of your talents to be able to do that. And then, quite frankly, once they get there, they're going to need all that creativity to get us out of this mess and with the pandemic, and to have us stay healthy moving forward. So it's going to use all those skills that you're teaching them, and for every step of their career moving forward. That is clear.
Great
All
advice.
right, somebody else has to now save me.
Great advice. Anyone else with closing comments?
Would it be okay?
Janelle, I see you've unmuted again. That's almost like being at an auction and holding up your hand for.
I was thinking Megan should go first because she has been going last. But I just reflecting on what Alex and Megan also have said about the candidates that we see that have that, sure, a strong portfolio, but have something to say about how they have given back to their communities or saw something was broken and tried to fix it. Those stories really stick. Those are the candidates that you're like, wow, you know, I really want to know more about this person, or this person brings something to the table that, you know, you cannot teach someone to have empathy, for example. You know, that is something that has to come with your package. So what are you bringing with you beyond your portfolio? And I think we all have things we do, and you need to craft that story and be very clear about what that is, because I think it could be a differentiator.
Thank you. Megan?
Sure. Yeah,
Janelle queued you up.
I know, she really did. No, I think that, you know, I guess my message would be to current students or recent graduates is, you know, this time has really kind of been a downer for everybody. And I think when we all look back on this time, what's going to stick out is kind of how we were resilient and how we pushed forward. And, you know, think about all of the things that you've been able to dive into or learn more about, and how you've changed through this whole process. Like, I know when I look back on 2020, even though right now, you know, I'm bummed that I had to cancel a Syracuse reunion trip with my friends, you know, I really got back into a lot of my sustainability research. I started cooking a lot more. I've making my way through my big stack of books that I never had found time to read. So, you know, I think that it's important to try and do something with this time and, you know, make it positive when you look back on it.
Okay. Any other closing comments? Going one.
I guess I'll jump in there.
Yes, Oz, please. Yeah, jump in.
I just want to say, I think there's a lot of energy right now in the world, especially in the U.S., and especially from this age like demographic, this youth that's early 20s, who's educated and scholarly. I think, you know, harness that energy and really begin to kind of use it to either recreate yourself, make a new tool belt, do whatever, you know, do that. But, you know, continue to sort of make an impact and redefine, you know, what your personal like your values are. And I think if you do that in this short break, because I believe it is going to be a short break, you'll be so much stronger for it afterwards.
Wow, great to hear. Great closing comments. I want to say, you know, I'm generally optimistic. I'm even more optimistic after speaking with and hearing from all of you tonight. I walk around the school, I see our students. I know that we are in a lot of difficult situations right now. There's a lot of disruption, there's a lot of craziness, and there's so much that needs to be done. But when I hear all of you speak, and when I walk around in our school and I see the incredible talent, commitment, and just character that just walks up and down those stairs every day, I'm heartened, and I look forward to everything that could come for tomorrow and the day after. I want to end by thanking you all. So great to see you. Thank you for spending some time with us. We recorded this, and so you can be sure this will be on our website, and a lot of our students end up, because of all the technological things that we've been discussing tonight, and because of the time differentials, they end up watching as much asynchronous stuff as they do live. So we appreciate very much you spending some time with us, adding these great words of wisdom and advice. And we look forward to having you again on a conversation like this, and even more so looking forward to seeing you back in the hallowed halls of Slocum and on our campus. I will turn it over to Kristen and let her take us out, but I want to thank you all again. Thank you.
So thank you all for participating. Thank you so much to our panelists for taking the time out. I hope you all have a wonderful Orange Central weekend. And as I mentioned in the chat feature, for those of you who are alumni and would like to get more involved with our students and get more engaged with our students, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is in the chat. It's kbdewolf@syr.edu. And we certainly have plenty of programming coming up in the spring semester that we would love to get you more involved. But regardless, have a great night. And again, have a wonderful Orange Central weekend. Thank you all.